Well, greetings everyone. This is the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. It is getting into Friday evening and the workday is done. And I wanted to bring you, I thought I'd share with you just some of the things I do. Not necessarily going to go through the whole 301 restoration process, but just wanted to kind of show you some of the things I do, you know, sort of the sections that I address when I'm going to overhaul a machine. Now, some of you may remember you saw in prior videos when I was talking about the motor in this machine that, you know, there's some dust underneath, very normal, most of it in this side over near the shuttle. And I'm not going to clean that out yet because it's a good idea when you're working on getting a sewing machine overhauled that you want to kind of start from the top and work your way down when you're getting rid of dust. Because if you don't, if you could clean the undercarriage of the machine and you're just going to get more dust and lint falling down there when you get to these other areas. And so gravity is going to create a mess for you, especially if you oil the underside. That makes it even worse because, of course, oil attracts dust. So I've just opened up the little side compartment here, and this kind of gives you a nice, I've got some nice lighting this evening, late afternoon. And you can see, of course, the great innovation that was the 301. You see the slanted needle bar and the slanted presser bar. And again, this was a feature that had been in industrial machines for a very long time. But Singer brought it into home machines. And so anyway, I wanted to show you, of course, this is the lint brush that I use. I like it because it has this little stiff bottle brush side to it. And again, you just go in and visually inspect. It's almost like you're sweeping. Now typically, for those of you who are looking to regularly maintain your machine, you want to keep it clean. You want to keep your lint machine free of lint. You want to clean that out every so often. And of course, oiling the machine. Those are your primary maintenance duties as a machine owner, a responsible owner. But you won't normally see a lot of lint or dust in here, but again, this machine it's time for its overhaul. It hasn't been. So again, I might just kind of give a good, just, you know, blow some air in there, just manually, take in my brush, just making sure that there's nothing in there that shouldn't be. I don't see a lot. But again, not knowing the last time the machine had service, I just want to get the dust out. I'm not ready to oil it yet. I don't want to do that because some of the oil, when I talk about oiling a machine for restoration purposes, it's not the same as normal oiling, and I typically use a little bit more because this machine, like many, is somewhat dry. And but you don't want to do that when you still have dust anywhere in the machine. You will not like the little muddy mess that can make. So I've already removed. Let me tilt this down just a bit. I've already removed the sewing foot. Didn't need that. It was in the way. There was an older needle here. I've removed that. That can all stay out for the moment. I will, of course, be installing a new needle. Let's see here. I am going to now, I'm going to remove the needle plate. So I think I may have mentioned this in some of the troubleshooting videos. When it comes to Singer featherweights and Singer 301s, they have something peculiar about their needle plates. They function beautifully and they're very well made and nothing troublesome. But when we go to put this back in, I'll demonstrate to you why it's important. And it's one of the primary things that can stump people if they're not familiar with these machines. So let's get this camera positioned a little bit, let's get it positioned a little bit different here, and I'll zoom in just a bit. Now, there are different ways to remove your needle plate, and by that I mean different ways to get access to the two screws that hold it in place. Now, I use this tool. I don't even remember where I got this. It's just it's a straight edge screwdriver on both sides, but notice it doesn't have a lot of height. It can be used horizontally, and I find that helpful. If you don't have one of these, you can find a very narrow, small screwdriver. But keep in mind, sometimes these screws are tight because they haven't been moved in a while. And if that's the case, never use a screwdriver that's too big or too small because you will strip the screws or damage them, and that's unnecessary. Again, when you're restoring, you normally won't need to do this for normal maintenance. But let's say I couldn't get this screw out. I would take one drop, just one, don't squirt a bunch of oil in here, one drop of sewing machine oil, and that will help loosen it. And if it doesn't right away, let it sit. Remember, patience, as I've mentioned many times, is your friend. Because you're working on machines that are really tough, but they haven't, they've been asleep for a long time. So you want to give them a chance to wake up a bit. So anyway, I'm not going to totally unscrew these with that. It's very useful for getting in there initially, but I'm just taking a screwdriver bit here, and I'm just going to unscrew them the rest of the way. They're loose now. And of course, feed dogs inherently, this is true whether you have a vintage or a new machine, feed dogs inherently are going to grab onto lint. They can't help it. Lint, whether it comes from your fabric or your thread in your needle, is just a part of sewing, and it's not that big a deal. You just want to have, some regular maintenance. These are, of course, the two screws that hold this needle plate in. One of the things I like about the 301 is that when they introduced it, they put in, most of you who have one, should have engraved seam markings where you can measure where your seams are, and that's nice to have. If you don't, by the way, if you have an older machine or one that didn't come with that, you can buy a decal. I get them from my supplier. They're little decals you can apply, and it'll give you kind of a little seam to look. It's certainly better than putting tape. I can't tell you how many machines I've had to remove masking tape because someone used that as a guide. So do yourself a favor, you can get one of the decals. They're really inexpensive. Now, I'm going to lift this up. But before I take the plate up, we're going to drop the camera. I want to show you something that some of you may or may not be aware of. Okay, folks, I lowered the camera because I wanted you to see this angle. It's kind of an odd angle here. But as many of you know, bobbin cases, most of them have what we might call a little finger or an ear. And this one, of course, on the 301 has its right here. It's positioned, basically 12 o'clock. It's a little off center, but that's how it was designed. Notice, I'm going to zoom in. I want you to pay attention. Look at the side profile of the needle plate, the one I just took the screws off of. Let's zoom in. I want you to see this in detail, guys. This, I really should have this in my troubleshooting video, and I just can't remember if I did one or not. Notice that this little finger or ear, whatever we want to call it, it lives in a little notch. And this needle plate that you see here, notice it's solid here, and in the middle is a little notch in the needle plate. And that's where this little finger or ear sits. So that when you install, and I'll pull this out in a minute, you can see when you install your bobbin case has to go in this position, okay? So the bobbin case itself does not have an ear like a lot of the Class 15s do, but the shuttle does. Notice it has, like when we turn, I'm turning the hand wheel, notice that I just revealed something else you want to know about 201s. 301s and featherweights. But that little notch needs to sit in this gap in the needle plate underneath. The reason that's important is because when you remove the needle plate, it's not a big deal. But people often will put the needle plate back in and they'll put the screws in and it all seems well and fine. But if this is not lined up in that notch, it will not sew. And many people think, oh no, my machine's broken. No, it's not. It's not broken at all. You just want to be sure that this is lined up when you reinstall the plate. And it's just a idiosyncrasy of Singer 301s and Singer featherweight 221s. And that's just the way they were designed. It's not a bad thing, but it's something to be aware of, because if you didn't know, you think, well, good grief, I put needle plates back in all the time. Now, while we are here, I couldn't have planned this better. Notice this little remnant of thread here, and when I tug on it, let's see if it wants to come out. There's something about 301s and featherweights, and I can even see the thread behind here. All machines can can find remnants of threads. When threads break, a lot of times you don't see all the pieces that break, and sometimes they're on the floor. But other times, anything that spins, in this case it's the shuttle, or it could be your hand wheel, or it could be your bobbin winding tire. Whatever that spinning object is a magnet for loose threads, and they will often get themselves wrapped around whatever it is that's spinning. And you don't want that long term because it can put a drag on the motor, it can strain the motor. These machines often will still sew, they're that well made, but you really want to kind of inspect your machine. With the 301 and the featherweight, they are renowned for doing this if you get a thread break here. Not always, this won't always happen, but it can. And if it does, it can be removed. But you want to know that that's happening. I've seen these things before where people didn't even know they had a thread. And what it's doing, it's probably wrapped around the drive shaft on the other side. And again, I've gotten many of these out. But the first thing I'm going to do, now, one other thing to mention. Let's zoom back out just a bit. I'm covering a lot of different things here, I realize this. So here's the extension, right? And of course it flips up. This extension is on hinges. So you have to be careful when you remove the plate. Like I can remove the plate right there. But sometimes when you're trying to see you're trying to see this here, make sure it lines in, you want to watch this because you don't want to pinch your plate with this flap. Now, there's the underside of the needle plate. Again, 301 and featherweights specifically, and now you can see, I don't even know why these were in here, probably for the purpose of how this shuttle works. Again, it works beautifully, just be aware it's a little different than other machines. So, I cannot say at this point, let's see if we can turn this. I think I'm going to turn it up and see if I can see anything from underneath. Well, that's very interesting, and I've seen enough 301s to have been looking for this, but some of you who may be new to the 301, and this is not just for restorers, this is for anyone who has one. If you have a 301 or you have a featherweight, and maybe your machine is not running as strong as it used to, you've oiled it, you've checked it out, and you just can't figure out what it is, it might be due to something like this. Now, there's the spot I wanted to show you guys. Now, let's tilt the machine this direction a little bit. I'm having to really zoom for you guys to see this. Take a look, guys. There's a blue thread in there. Actually, there was a white thread hanging out. And if I can get this camera to be still, let's zoom in. Let's see what we see here. Well, I see a blue thread here. And then I see it's also wrapped around this little spot. This is right behind the race where I just took out the bobbin case. And notice there's little threads here. Now, since I've had this machine, I did some testing when I bought it to make sure it would run, and it's sewed to stitch. But again, the machine is having to do this with the extra burden of this wound thread. So that will be coming out of there. How do I get it out? Well, I want to be careful. I don't want to chop it into pieces. That makes it harder to remove. So I'm going to see if I can get a loose end. I'm taking my little poker tool here, whatever you have available. And to see if one end of this is loose, then I can hopefully just unravel it. There we go. I just plopped out a little thread here. Now, sometimes these threads you'll pull, be gentle, and it's holding on like a dog with a bone. One of the things you can try is try wiggling your hand wheel in one direction or the other to see if you can get the thread to come out. There, I'm getting, yay! I'm getting kind of a length here, guys, and it's unraveling. It's unraveling. I was on a roll there for a minute, and now it's hanging in here for whatever reason. So there we go. I'll need to zoom back out so you can see something other than my thumb. So there it is. Look at that long piece of thread that was in there. Again, I always look for this. Normally, if you sew with a 301 or a featherweight, you're going to be fine. You're going to be sewing, not going to have problems. But this is just, again, one of those things you want to be aware of, that these machines are capable of being a little misbehaving. And, you know, every machine has its idiosyncrasies. I'm not picking on the 301 or the featherweight. They are legendary machines, and any of you who have one know what I'm speaking of. So let's see, I'm going to take and turn. Now I'm turning this, the drive shaft and the shuttle. I'm just going to hold this here, just see if there's anything in there. I don't really see anything else. So there we go. Sometimes it'll be further to the right. Ugh. Sometimes the thread might grab a hold over here, but usually it's right behind the shuttle. And again, it's not hard to remove. You just need to be aware of it. Be patient. Don't let it frustrate you. Now, let's go back and see if all of my wrangling helped to reveal where this little white thread was. Hopefully, in the process of my doing what I did, I would like to then see if I can get, by turning the wheel, can I get this little white thread that's wound its way in there? There it comes. And it didn't give me any resistance, and that tells me, hopefully, I've gotten it all out. So there you go. Just a little bit of a restorer's tip. And again, even if you're not restoring, you may have a machine that's in great shape and you're just sewing with it. You may be the owner of a 301 featherweight, 301 or featherweight, and just keep this in mind because you may want to do that for your machine. I noticed that my bobbin thread is white, and I suspect that part of the bobbin thread got caught in there. It could be someone tried to sew with it. It could be old thread that's dry rotted. Any number of causes. Now, let's, you'll notice there's a lot of lint and dust in here. We're going to get that out. But first, we are going to address the lint buildup. It's like a little blanket in here, and I'm going to change the camera angle again. It's just terrible. It's embarrassing. Let's see. Okay, folks, take a look at that. What we've got is we've got our feed dog mechanism, and we have got a little blanket of lint. Again, sometimes I think these machines run so well, I really honestly think that some people just forget. They forget to clean their feed dogs. It's not like they're being purposely, negligent. But look at this. This is giant. Looks like just a big tumbleweed of lint. And again, it doesn't hurt the machine. It just makes the machine less efficient. It's not going to sew as well. And these machines are so incredible. They provide so much. Let's treat them with respect and give them the maintenance they need. And again, I'm just pulling it out, the big clumps that I've got here. Good grief. I'm just going to pull these clumps out, and then we'll go back in just a minute with the lint brush to get any of the small stuff. Now, this is, again, just grabbing a hold of lint. And now you can see why I did not want to start cleaning the dust from underneath, and certainly not oiling anything. Try to get all of the dust that's loose on your machine off before you put any oil. You've got plenty of time to do the oiling. Don't be in a hurry. If you do, you're going to have oil plus this, which is like a mucky mess that, yeah, you can clean it up, but it's just, this is an easier, less painful way to do it. So now, if I've gotten a good bit of this out of here, and see, I'm still getting a few pieces. Now, there's a space in between your feed dogs right here, and you really want to check it because lint will get compacted down in here, and if any oil has dripped off the needle, which it can do sometimes, you will get what I call, this almost looks like, well, you can see it here on the bed extension of the machine. It's a little bit of, I don't know what that is, grease and lint together. It's mostly oil and lint, and it makes for just a little clump there. Again, it's not damaging the machine, but you definitely want to clean this more often. And again, we have to be kind and gentle to the people who own this. The original owner may not have used it in a long time, may not have had it serviced, and the people who rescued it, who found it somewhere and put it online so I could buy it, I doubt they even knew that this needed to be done. I don't think they were sewing machine people. They were just folks who saw a machine and thought they would try to keep it from the landfill, and I'm glad they did. It is one of the most famous of the vintage singers ever made. Now, I'm trying to get as much of this up off the machine in these little clumps that you see me pulling up before I use the brush, because when I use the brush, the dust is going to go in different directions, and I'd really like to get as much of it out in in these clumps. Oh boy, holy cow, there comes more. It's yeah, I mean, you think a little rabbit lived in here, but again, it's, you know, this is not uncommon. There's nothing. This does not tell me that the prior owner who was sewing with this, I don't believe that they abused the machine. Again, the engineers knew this could happen, the people who designed this machine, and so they designed them tough. But again, I'm a big believer in maintenance. You take care of your stuff and it should last. If it was designed and engineered well, and God knows these machines were, you know, it would be a shame. It'd be like having a Swiss watch and never taking it into the jeweler for cleaning and oiling, ironically. Okay, so now I'm going to take, and this is, let's pan out just a bit. I'm going to take my lint brush and I'm going to start using it here and just try to pull anything I can up, and, you know, as best I can here. And you're still seeing more coming out of there. You can really see it on a black machine. And I'm just pulling as much up as I can because some of it I know is going to go down, and that's fine. I can get it on the bottom, and I'm just coming in there. And you can also take the little the little broom in and in fact, I've got so much here, I'm not sure, I may break out the canned air. I rarely use canned air. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't think it's harmful. You just want to make sure you don't send debris or dust into a place that's hard to get to. You don't want to make your problem worse. But again, this machine is just, like I say, it hasn't had a lint cleaning, obviously, in a long time. But I mean, it was making a fairly nice stitch before. Imagine how it's going to perform. Woo. Once we get the all the old built-up dust. Now that I can see my feed dogs, I'm going to zoom back in and show you something else that you can try. There we go. It's a close-up of the feed dogs. Now you can, excuse me, now you can see the base of them with all that dust out. Now, the feed dogs have little grooves, and I take a little tool like this. You can use, you can find, you know, inexpensive little dental tools. They're actually useful. But this is I think it's a kind of a tweezers with a pointed end, something that you can poke at this. This is obviously not a painted surface. And you're going to find sometimes there'll be a little bit of a packed in lint, especially lint that was mixed with oil. It comes off easy. It's not like, you know, it's not like an onerous thing to try to get it off. And I'm going to take this again, and I'm going to do this where you guys can see. I'm going to kind of come in here and just, you know, just clean out these little spaces in case there's any caked on lint built up. Now, why bother this? Remember, your feed dogs are like, they have little teeth here, and you want to make sure that this is all open because that's what grabs your fabric. If you try to use this machine, especially the way it was before I started cleaning it, yeah, it'll move the fabric, but it's not going to do it really well because it's, you know, it can't really get its teeth in anything because they're covered in all that lint. So, you know, again, just, you know, just, I think we've gotten it all out of there, and then I'm going to take the stiff end of the bristles of this bottle, I call it the bottle washer brush, but it's just a stiff cylinder shaped brush. Now let's see, everything here looks pretty clean. I'm sure the underside is going to be looking a little different, so let's go back and take a look at that. And let me zoom back out because right now all you see is the towel that this machine is sitting on. Now see what we've got. Okay, it's not too bad. Actually, must have got most of it out. So now we are back on the underside. and I've got some cobwebs, some dust bunnies here, and sometimes they hide, and you never know where they're gonna get stuck. But again, the good news is this is easy to do, and like I say, this is, it's Friday evening. I just wanted to it's if you approach this and you're not in a hurry, which you should never be when you're overhauling a sewing machine, it's actually relaxing. It's just something that I'm not going to completely restore this machine in one sitting. It's going to take quite a few hours. I think when I'm done, I'm probably looking at 11 or 12 hours, maybe a little less. It depends. It'll depend on how everything tests out, because I test all of my machines. I do test stitching on them. I'll take something and do a little mending on some project I have, not the whole project, just to kind of test and make sure that these machines are ready to get to work again for a new owner. So, and like I say, if you get a machine and it's perfectly clean, either it wasn't used much at all, or it was used recently and someone took really good care of it. Usually that's not what you get. You usually get something like this, but again, it's a great candidate for making a good machine for someone once again. Again, the machines, a lot of these old machines, you want to think of them as if they've been asleep. They've just been parked and left. And they're just waiting, right? And again, I'm not lubricating anything here. I'll be going in with Q-tips. Looks like it got some grease, I don't know, maybe in the last 10 years. And I'll go over, actually, I may videotape that when I go to oil it and grease it. And I'll show you how I put grease on gears. I know that sounds silly, but sometimes I get machines and they're just covered and slathered in grease, and they don't need that. This one wasn't, thankfully. So, okay. And before I oil it in one of the coming videos, I'll go back and check, make sure there's no more dust that's fallen. Let's take it back, turn it around, and now we are ready. We're down in this section. Now I want to take my lint brush and start pulling out some of this caked on lint here. And like I say, all sewing machines were engineered with this in mind. They knew, all machines create lint, even the new ones do. So again, there's nothing malfunctioning here. It's just, like I say, it's part of maintenance. And any true machine should be maintained. And by the way, here is, let me see if I can show this to you. Remember that little finger or the ear of the shuttle I was telling you about that needs to rest? Notice that when the needle plate is not in, it just spins freely. And that's often what happens. People go to put the needle plate in and they don't get this lined up, and they don't understand why their machine's not working. Again, that applies to both featherweights and Singer 301s. It's not true of the 400 slantomatics or 500s, because those have a different bobbin and shuttle system. Okay, again, it's not the paint here is not cleaned yet, but I have gotten all of the loose dust off of here. And again, that's just one of the steps that's involved in restoring machines. So when you start looking at all this stuff, you can see how the hours can eventually add up. Now I'm taking a little extra time just making the videos, but that's something I do. Most of you, it'd be great if you make videos of your own restorations, but if you just want to get machines restored, this is an example of one of the ways I approach this. So first of all, just getting the machine cleaned off so I can look at it, see what's going on. There's not really dust to speak of up top, because that top is sealed except for where you put oil in, and that's typically, it's seldom that I would ever have an issue with dust in the enclosed top. It's usually underneath, on the side, and particularly in the bobbin area. No surprise. Okay, what do we have? I think that for this video, folks, that is where we are. So that is one of the phases of the process of reconditioning, overhauling, conserving, restoring, whichever word you like to use, a vintage sewing machine. In this case, the incomparable Singer 301. These machines are very much like featherweights. They make stitches like featherweights. They are stronger, bigger, they have a wider heart. And I'll talk more about that when I get this machine finally ready for its debut. So stay tuned. I will probably make a couple more videos. May do one with taking off the hand wheel. We've already covered the motor. The motor's already been serviced and reinstalled. And what else do we have? The hand wheel. And if there's something else, I'll think about it. I'll show you how I oil and lubricate, grease the both the bottom and the upper sections of the machine. And remember, grease goes on gears, oil goes on other moving parts and oiling points. So there you go, guys. A somewhat cleaner Singer 301 after we pulled out, oh, what is that, a couple of pounds of lint? My God. But if any of you ever see this in a machine, don't panic. There's nothing wrong. Your machine will be fine. You just need to take the time to get the poor thing cleaned out. And then, like I said, we'll move forward. And as you can see, when I go about approaching a machine, I do it in sections, right? In this case, I was getting rid of the dust, and even that we did in sections. We did here on the side compartment. We did underneath, and of course, we did the feed dogs and the bobbin area, and then underneath it should be relatively dust free. So we're not anywhere close to done yet. We've got quite more to do, and of course I'm doing a lot of overhaul on the machine. I'm not videotaping everything, or you'd have hours to watch, but I'm kind of zeroing in or focusing in on certain methods. You kind of approach one end or section or area of a machine at a time, and that way it doesn't seem so daunting, and it's a gradual process until the whole machine comes together. So there you have it. So stay tuned. The next video I do on this machine, I may just talk a little bit, like I say, about the hand wheel. We'll see, and we'll get the 301 ready for its debut. Quilters particularly are fond of this machine, but other people I've sold it to, and garment sewing just makes a beautiful stitch. I appreciate so much all of you watching. Stay tuned, and there will be more to come on the 301 Singer.